10 True Subway Restaurant Horror Stories. Number 10. When I was 14, I planned to buy a birthday present downtown. While waiting for the subway, a guy in his late teens or early 20s with glasses started staring at me. I felt uncomfortable and tried to avoid eye contact. When the subway arrived, I managed to find a seat and calm down, but later, I saw the same guy on the escalator behind me, still staring. I tried to convince myself he was just another shopper, but when I saw him walking in my direction as I left the subway, I panicked. I ducked into a bookstore to wait, but when I left, he was still nearby. I should have called my parents, but instead, I walked quickly in the opposite direction, hoping to lose him. When I noticed he was still following me, I ran across a busy street. Thankfully, the driver didn't charge me and waited until I was safely home. Number 9. I live in a big city where harassment is common, so I'm used to guys acting creepy. One night, despite my mom's advice to travel in the morning, I took the late subway home alone. A guy across from me was talking to himself or me, and I ignored him. Behind me, a man in his 40s sat in an almost empty compartment, which felt off and creepy. I heard him moving and his coat rustling. When I looked in the window, I saw his hand sneaking between the window and the chair, reaching towards my arm. I turned around quickly and asked, "What?" He was startled and asked what was up. I left the compartment and didn't look back. Number 8. This happened when I was 18 and had just moved to Tokyo for college. I was living in a dorm about an hour away from school and the city center. Japan is one of the safest cities in the world. People leave their bikes unlocked and no one bothers them. The only real crime issue is pervs on the subway. As an obvious American, I hadn't faced any problems until one night. I had dinner with a friend and took a late train back to my dorm. On the local train, it was just me and one other man, a middle-aged businessman. As the train emptied, I noticed he was staring at me. I moved to the other end of the car to be safe, but he followed and sat in the exact seat I had just left. This was unsettling. When the train stopped, he got off, but then came back through the door right in front of me and sat next to me, breathing heavily and staring. I avoided eye contact and stood up, and luckily, someone else got on the train at that moment. The man bolted off before the doors closed. I'm still not sure what he intended, but I now prefer the express train and avoid late trains when I can. Number 7. While in college in downtown Chicago, I took the Brown Line train from the Loop to Lakeview twice a day. Known as one of the safer lines, it was on this very train that I had the creepiest experience of my time in the city. I was sitting facing a younger guy near the doors, talking about classes, when I noticed a change in his demeanor that made me uneasy. Suddenly, he began touching himself while maintaining eye contact with me. It was around 3 p.m., broad daylight. I was horrified, quickly moved to the other side of the train, and thankfully, we were approaching a stop. Number 6. While waiting to transfer lines on a subway platform, a man came up next to me. I was reading and didn't look up until he spoke, saying he liked my shoes. When I looked up, I saw a man about 5 inches and 220 pounds, with a wide build and crooked teeth, smiling at me unnervingly. Trying to be polite, I thanked him, but he leaned in and asked where I bought my shoes. I told him, feeling skeptical. He then started talking about the book I was reading, claiming it was one of his favorites. I realized he was just trying to get close. As he got closer and more invasive, I told him I didn't give out my number. He responded by saying he understood and then unexpectedly hugged me, invading my personal space. Before I could react, he started humping my leg. I pushed him away and told him not to come near me. When the train arrived, I quickly walked to the door and he called after me, saying he'd see me around. I boarded the train, keeping an eye out for him, and cut my trip short to go home and shower, feeling disgusting. Number 5. My boyfriend and I were on the subway heading home late at night. I noticed a guy across from us. His head turned and locked on me. He seemed to be high on something, with glassy eyes. He slurred, "You're beautiful," twice. I smiled nervously, unsure of what to do. My boyfriend noticed and saw my discomfort, while other passengers were also watching. The guy said it again, and my boyfriend suggested we move to some open seats near the front. We got up, and my boyfriend positioned himself between me and the guy, keeping an eye on him without staring directly. While waiting for the cab, I saw the guy at a nearby subway exit, holding a small knife. I yelled, "Oh my God," causing my boyfriend to look too. The guy saw us and quickly turned, going back down the subway stairs. I have no idea what his plan was, but I'm thankful I never found out. Number 4. One morning, as I was heading to work, a homeless man stopped me near my subway stop. He motioned for me to take off my headphones. When I did, he asked for change. I said no, and then he asked for a hug. I reluctantly agreed, thinking he might be harmless. As he hugged me, he grabbed my butt and started kissing my neck. I'm a 6'2", overweight, bearded man, so I was taken aback and unsure how to react. I wasn't scared, but more bewildered by the situation. After a few seconds, he let me go, and I mumbled, "Okay, you take care now," before heading to my train. It was such a bizarre experience that it took me almost an entire day to process what had happened. Number 3. I was on the subway in New York, heading into Penn Station after work. At 18, I was sitting in a crowded car, and a man stood directly in front of me, holding the bar above my head. His crotch was uncomfortably close to my face, but I tried to ignore it. As I looked away, trying not to focus on him, I noticed another man across from me giving me a strange look. When I glanced back, I saw the man in front of me had his genitals out and erect. I panicked, leaned away, and avoided eye contact, feeling trapped in the packed car. When my stop finally came, I rushed off and found my mom, who comforted me. We reported the incident to a police officer, but he seemed indifferent. Number 2. Last summer, while riding the SkyTrain from downtown Vancouver to Burnaby, a man sat next to me in a nearly empty car. At first, I brushed off his slight nudging against my left breast, but soon his hand was resting dangerously close to my thigh and then squeezing it. I felt trapped and silently cried while he touched me. Summoning the courage to yell, I was about to scream when he said, "I don't feel good," which made me hesitate. With my stop approaching, I endured a few more minutes until I could escape. As I got off, I heard him calling after me, so I ran outside and hid. I thought I'd lost him, but saw him again when I went back inside to use a payphone since my cell phone was dead. He approached me, asking if I was lost and persistently questioning me about my personal life. I continued pretending not to speak English. When my friend arrived, I quickly got in his car. Although he wanted to confront the man, I just wanted to forget the ordeal. In hindsight, I should have called the police or stood up for myself, but I was too scared at the time. Number 1. When I was 16 and on a summer exchange program in Germany, my friends and I were at a subway station in Nuremberg. As we were heading down the escalator, a man in his late 50s or early 60s, about 6'7" and 300 pounds, whistled at us. We waved back, not realizing the danger. He started sprinting up the escalator, shoving people aside to reach us. We ran to catch our train, relieved when we got on, but soon noticed he was following us, moving between train sections to track us. We planned to get off at our stop and find help. As we left the train, we saw he hadn't followed, but he waved at us through the window with a wide smile as the train pulled away. We were terrified and unsure of his intentions, but relieved to have escaped. For more wild and unbelievable trucker stories like this one, be sure to comment below with your thoughts and subscribe for more incredible content. You won't want to miss the next jaw-dropping tale.